It is Christy with Planted Places, and I am so excited. I'm here with Barbie of Community Cuisine. Hi, Barbie.
Hi.
How are you? So, you guys, you might have remembered seeing us in fall when we actually came out with our seasonal gardening and cooking guide. And then we had our awesome class that we took people through in the fall, where we taught people about kind of how do you grow in the fall and how do you eat what you're growing. I mean, all like just wonderful ways and tricks. You're so creative with that. And so we wanted to come on and let everybody know that guess what? It's the cold months, even though you would not know because I'm like blasting with sun right now. Just came out 2 minutes ago. And we want to talk about what do you do in the winter months, in the cold months, and depending on where you live, this can last, this could go into spring and for a while. And so what we find a lot of times is people think, you know what, I can't do anything because it's too cold. I got to wait for the warmer time of year, summer and late spring, summer, fall. And what we want to talk about, because it's so important, you guys, it's so important to always be trying to eat fresh greens from your garden as much as you can because of the nutrient density. And Barbie and I know we talk about this a lot, which is the fact, the nutrient depletion that goes on that people don't realize. And my famous quote, I say this all the time, which is spinach loses 95% of its vitamin C within the first 24 hours of harvesting. Crazy. And then, most other leafy greens up to 77% up to within the first 7 days. So, it's crazy. So you don't know, right? You go to the grocery store and not only do they wilt quickly, they don't have any, I don't say any, but they're very depleted of nutrition.
Yeah.
And also depends on how that produce was farmed as well, right? And so that, that's
Right.
go on and on about that. But what I love about the partnership with Barbie is, I talk about growing food and Barbie talks about cooking with the food. So it's a wonderful marriage, I think. And I think, what we've got a guide that we've pulled together for the cold months. And we also have a really fun short mini class we've also pulled together, but it's really tailored to the cold season. And so what we want to talk about today is, I wanted to bring up, like, what is one of the most common question that I get from people when it comes to growing in the winter. And then I'm going to throw it over to Barbie because she's going to then give us a lot of tips and ideas of kind of what you do with what you're growing. And it's kind of it's showing you kind of a hint of what's in our guide and also like what's in our mini class and what you can expect from us. So first question, of course, that I get all the time is like, oh, I'm not going to grow it during the winter because it's too cold and I don't think anything grows. And I'm here to tell you guys, like, look behind me. I am growing a lot of stuff on my wall here. So it's different. So there's some, cold tolerant and there's kind of heat tolerant varieties of a lot of different plants. But specifically in the winter, there are certain greens that you get really only and I don't want to just say winter because it goes into the spring and early fall, but you're getting certain, we like to call them the bitter greens, right? And so those are your mustards and your mizunas, and you've got also like your radicchios, and you've got certain herbs that are kind of happier in the colder environment. And so we're definitely growing that. And so that's like, you can kind of see behind me here, but I'm just going to take, I just went out of the wall. So here's a mustard green, and it's just happy, happy, happy. And, I can start harvesting this. But then I'm always like, what to do with the mustard green? Or same thing with like a Swiss chard. I got a Swiss chard here, and it's starting to produce a lot of leaves for me, and it's kind of like, what do I do with the Swiss chard? So that's why I love to bring Barbie in, because it's like, Barbie, what do we do with Swiss chard?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give me some tips.
Okay. Okay. Well, the interesting thing that I love about nature is that the fruits and vegetables that are in season, in each season are just perfect for that season. Like if you think about summer and there's watermelon and berries and all the juicy, juicy peaches, everything is just full of water, right? And that's when you really
Yeah.
need to be hydrated is so eating the watermelon and all the melons, all that kind of stuff. So in the winter, the interesting thing is that plants that really grow well in winter, a lot of them are bitter. So the whole bitter family, one of the amazing things for our body is that bitterness really, really helps with digestion. It gets your digestive juices going. So, maybe we're not exercising as much. We're hunkered down inside. It's snowing outside. It's whatever. And, you need everything to keep moving. And so the bitter greens are fabulous for that. And that can be anything from, like you said, the mustard greens, arugula, radicchio, all of those are so good for your body. And that's when they grow really well, is in winter. So bringing those things together and knowing what to do with them, a lot of them can be either cooked or served raw. And so, like in the class, we kind of go into that a little bit. I love to do pesto in the winter, and I basically just take all my different greens and blend them up and make different pestos with maybe spicy or add a chili pepper or a smoky flavor, whatever. So there's lots of, yeah.
I mean, Barbie, what's so cool about that? Like, see, I love you just said it, because everybody thinks pesto equals basil, and that's just not the case, right? I mean, that's what's so cool.
Technically it's basil, but I need to come up with an herb sauce or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a technicality.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a really interesting way to think, because it also probably might potentially take off for some people who don't really like the strong bitter. It might take some of that tea, that punch that the bitterness brings. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's lots of things you can do. I mean, you can cook those bitter greens too. So yeah, there's lots of things to do. And I think it's really great. And then the other thing is the herbs. You've got a lot of herbs that you offer.
Yeah.
And I love my wall of herbs, because when you buy herbs at the store, the wall is worth the herbs alone, because when you buy herbs at the store, I bought tarragon. I don't know why. It lasted a day, and then it just dies. So it's so nice to go out and pick. And I do that a lot. And things like the cilantro stem is edible. And I chop this, rather than using the leaves, say for salsa, I chop the cilantro stems, because they stay crunchy, but they're not woody.
Yep.
And so they're great in salsa or tossed into salad, because they don't get wilty. Yeah. So the herbs
And
are,
it's interesting because cilantro, I have found, because, I've been growing outdoors for, a couple of years now with the wall. And it's interesting because cilantro does so well in the cold seasons.
yeah.
And I'm always surprised by that. Like, it's like, because it also grows in the warm season too. And again, that's what I mean by the example of you have different varieties of that herb that are just more cold tolerant or more, heat tolerant. So yeah.
So the other thing is that in the winter, a lot of the vegetables have a lot more sugar, like say sweet potatoes, which I know you don't have growing because they grow underground.
Yeah.
But I make this killer salsa using sweet potatoes. I basically figured it out from a restaurant that's in our area.
Okay.
And they had a sweet potato salsa. And so you barely cook the sweet potato, so it's almost raw, dice it up, and then you use all of the cilantro stems, save the flowers for, decoration or something else. And oh my gosh, it's so good.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Really sweet, because I love sweet potatoes. So
Yeah, I do too.
yeah. Oh, that's a great tip. I love that. I mean, that's an example, guys, of kind of the types of what you can expect when you see our guide. But also, I mean, what's so great about the guide too is, Barbie, you go in a lot of detail of, like, you cover a lot of different vegetables, not just the greens. You cover a lot of the different winter vegetables and kind of how do you cook those. So we have this free guide that you can download at our website, so plantedplaces.com or
communitycuisine.com.
Exactly. And I love that, because I love your name. It's all about cuisine in the community. And so download that. And also too, you'll find out information about our class that's going to be going all winter long. We'll be doing it for the next 2 months. And what we do is it runs for 5 weeks, and you can join at any time through the winter months. So, if you're busy, you're not able to start right away, that's okay. You join when you're ready. And we can, even hold the course and start it right when you're ready to start. And what's really cool too, is you can buy a kit. You could buy a seasonal winter kit to grow along with us. And, and we will send you those winter bitter greens and some of the herbs that then Barbie talks about in the classes. And I always like to say this because a lot of people will say to me, Christy, I don't have time to plant and I don't know how to do it. And I've done it. It's not a good experience. And so we started introducing this whole concept of pre-planted seedlings. So we actually send you, instead of sending you a little bitty seedling or a seed, we actually send this to you. So here is an example. This is a medley, probably pronounced that wrong, kale, and it's a seedling. And this is exactly how it arrives. It arrives in a biodegradable bag and it's got the seedling all there. So the planting's been done. So the soil's the best kind of soil you can have. We've already added the mycorrhizal fungi and the worm castings for you. We've done all that. It's all in here. And then all you're doing is you're just sliding it into some fun felt pots that we bring. You just slide them in so you can reuse them over and over. And then in the class, I'm just going to talk to you about like, how do you know when to harvest? And, and how do you take care of them while they're growing into this lovely size, right? And so it's kind of like, what are the pests to look out for? And how do you know when you need to water and how do you harvest, right? These are, or I like to call it graze. How do you know when to graze? Because, our Swiss chard over here that I showed you, like I will take, because the leaves get really big. I could take 2 or 3, 4 of those, put them in a stir fry, put them in, some of these awesome recipes that you provide, Barbie, and then it will just keep growing. It keeps regenerating. Swiss chard will go for a long time. So, they have different life cycles. We talk about that. So anyways, don't be afraid.
And you've got the stems. When you buy things at the stores, the stems are always cut off, and the charred stems are delicious. So
beautiful. I mean, look at this beautiful yellow. I've got one that's bright orange and pink. It's like, oh my God, they're beautiful to look at. They add so much color. So, and also too, I wanted to say that with the stem of the cilantro and also parsley, there's a lot of nutrition sitting in this stem.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, remember, like the leaf, it's pretty thin, but the stem is thick. There's more stuff in there. So more vitamins and minerals are sitting in that stem. So I love that you had an idea for that. So
the other thing that I'll just say too is that, a lot of winter vegetables, like anything from the cabbage family, really should be cooked. I know a lot of people or fermented, like sauerkraut, but a lot of people are into like raw smoothies with kale and things like that. But there's oxalic acid in the kale and that whole family, and that can really irritate your your intestinal tract, I guess I'll say. And it blocks calcium and iron absorption and all of that. So we do different things in figuring out how to cook, because the thing about doing this is everybody's so busy. So everything I think that we really talk about is ways to do a little prep. If you're making dinner, make enough for the next night. How do you cook the vegetables and all of that?
Yeah. And I think I'm so glad you mentioned that about the oxalates because, oftentimes people wonder, like, gosh, I'm having digestive issues, something's going on. And it's a lot of these are these exact reasons that you're talking about. It's like knowing how to prepare the food that you're buying either from the farmer's market or that you're growing so that your body can absorb the nutrients that are there. I mean, that's very powerful what you just said. It blocks calcium uptake. And also too, like with certain people, kidney stones can be.
That's a big issue. That's a very, very big issue for eating. It's if you cook it, it's okay. If you eat it raw, it's not so great.
Breaks it down, right? It breaks it down so your body is not blocked by it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful tips. Well, we hope this was helpful, everybody. And please head on over to our websites, plantedplaces.com and communitycuisine.com, and download our guide, join us in the mini class, and we will see you. And we call it a mini class on purpose. Even though it says master class, you're getting master class material in mini class bite size.
Right.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much for joining me, Barbie.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.